Hello loves, today is another subject that not a lot of people talk about, but you know me, it's always me talking about things that need to be spoken about more that don't really get talking about. So the title of today's podcast is When Love Loses Control, Lashing Out, EUPD and Parenting. So welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host Becca and this is Be Yourself Unapologetically. Today's episode is a hard one, but it's an important one. We're talking about lashing out with words, with fists, with slammed doors and smashed plates, and with the quiet kind of violence too. The neglect, the shrug, the I can't be arsed, the go away, I'm busy, the packet of crisps instead of the connection, the bedtime with no kiss goodnight. We're talking about what happens when a parent lives with EUPD, emotionally unstable personality disorder, sometimes called BPD, and loses control, and then blames everyone and everything for the explosion. If that's been you as a parent, this episode isn't here to shame you. If you were the child on the receiving end, this episode is absolutely for you too. I'm going to talk about how lashing out happens, how words can cut as deep as physical violence, how neglect isn't just starving a child, it can look like junk food, no bedtime, no reading, no interest, how EUPD can be used as an excuse for narcissistic parenting and how not to let that happen, and how all of this can shape a child's brain, their education, their sense of self, and possibly their own mental health in the future. So let's take a breath. In and out. You're safe here. If at any point this feels too much, pause me, make a cuppa, take a walk, come back when you're ready. Let's begin. So, what lashing out actually is? When I say lashing out, what comes to mind? Maybe it's shouting, maybe it's what is wrong with you, maybe it's a slap, maybe it's the sound of something smashing in the kitchen, maybe it's the silent treatment that lasts for days. Lashing out is what happens when pain, fear, shame, stress, trauma all pile up inside someone who doesn't have the skills, the support, or the stability to cope. And it bursts outwards. Instead of turning towards their feelings and saying, okay, I'm overwhelmed, I need help, they turn towards the nearest person, often their child, and say, this is your fault, you've pushed me, look what you've made me do. Sometimes it's physical, grabbing a wrist too hard, pushing, slapping, throwing things, blocking a doorway. Sometimes it's verbal. You're selfish, you're so dramatic, you're thick. You'll never cope in the real world. If you weren't here, I'd be fine. And sometimes it's the absence of words that hurts the most. The parent who walks away mid-sentence. The door slams so hard the house shakes. Days of being ignored, the look of pure disgust on their face. Lashing out is uncontrolled pain aimed at the wrong target. EUPD and losing control. Now let's talk about EUPD. We've spoke about it in the past, but it's always good to go over it again. Emotionally unstable personality disorder isn't being dramatic or attention seeking. It's a serious mental health condition that often comes from early trauma, instability, abandonment, or invalidation. If you live with EUPD, your emotions don't just flutter, they deteriorate and then detonate. A tiny comment can feel like rejection. A child rolling their eyes can feel like abandonment. Your teenager saying, I don't want to hug right now, can hit like, I hate you, I wish you weren't my parent. Your nervous system needs everyday family life and treats everyday family life as threats. And when your brain thinks you're under threat, it goes into fight, which is shouting, swearing, slamming, hitting. Flight, storming out, disappearing, or ghosting. Freeze, shutting down, staring at your phone, feeling numb. And fawn, overgiving, then resenting, then exploding. If you're a parent with EUPD, you might find yourself saying things like, I wouldn't shout if you just listened. You know I'm ill, you should know better than to push me. You made me so angry, I lost it. Let's be clear and calm here. Your diagnosis explains your reactions. It does not excuse your abuse. You can absolutely say, I struggle with EUPD and that's why my emotions feel so big. You cannot say, I struggle with EUPD, so it's fine that I screamed at you, called you names, scared you, hit you, or ignored you for days. You can admit, I lost control and that's not okay. I'm sorry. I'm getting help. I am responsible for how I treat you. EUPD is not a free pass for narcissistic parenting. The damage words can do. People love to say words are just words, sticks and stones, etc. No. Words are experiences. Words are neurochemicals. Words are brain wiring. When a parent repeatedly says to a child, you're too much, you're not trying hard enough, you're embarrassing, you're lazy, you're just like your dad, mum, etc. Useless. The child doesn't hear mum is dysregulated or dad is projecting his own trauma. The child hears something like, there is something fundamentally wrong with me. Their body responds, heart racing, stomach clenching, muscles tightening, sleep disturbed. Their brain adapts. They become hypervigilant, constantly scanning for tone of voice, footsteps, slammed cupboards, noises. The people please to stay safe. They disappear into perfectionism or into chaos. And the brutal part? The body responds to psychological terror and physical terror in similar ways. The cortisol, the adrenaline, it doesn't really care whether it was a slap or a scream. Both can leave the child jumpy, ashamed, confused, anxious, and numb. Verbal abuse is abuse. Emotional abuse is abuse. You don't have to hit a child for them to be traumatized. Neglect isn't just starving a child. So let's talk about neglect. We tend to imagine worst case scenarios, no food, no heating, no clothes. But neglect can look much more normal from the outside. Neglect can be feeding junk food every day because you can't be asked to cook or plan meals or learn about nutrition, not just the odd takeaway, not that we're skint this week. It's frozen chips kind of survival. I mean, no effort to provide basic nourishment because you're too wrapped up in your own chaos. Letting your child stay up till whenever, scrolling, gaming, TV blasting, never saying bedtime now, never tucking them in, no goodnight kiss, no I love you. Dismissing them as soon as they walk in from school. They open the door, backpack heavy with the day. Maybe they were bullied, maybe they smashed a test, maybe they barely got through it. And you say, go away, I'm busy, I don't want to hear it, I'm not in the mood. Handing them a device instead of attention every single time. Not the odd cartoon so you can breathe, we all do that. I mean the pattern where the phone or tablet is the main parent and you're a ghost in the background. Never going to parents' evening, never reading school emails, never asking how they're getting on because it's the school's job and you're too overwhelmed or too uninterested to show up. Neglect is not meeting a child's basic physical and emotional needs: food, sleep, safety, affection, attention, guidance and boundaries. Children don't just need you to keep them alive, they need you to keep them seen. It's not my fault I have EUPD, etc. V's taking responsibility. If you're a parent with EUPD, you might feel very defensive right now. You might be thinking, you've no idea how hard it is. I'm doing my best. I didn't choose this. My parents were worse. And that can be true. You didn't choose your trauma. You didn't choose your diagnosis. You didn't choose the nervous system you were handed as a child. But I have EUPD. Here's the thing. Your child didn't choose any of this either. They didn't choose to grow up walking on eggshells. They didn't choose to be the emotional punching bag for a parent's unresolved past. They didn't choose to be ignored because you're on your phone or stuck in your own rage. So there's a fork in the road. Use UPD as a shield. I can't help it. This is just me. You'll have to put up with it. You can't use UPD as a reason to get fiercely honest and fiercely responsible. I am struggling. My reactions are extreme. My child deserves better. I need to get help, and I'm going to get it. Responsibility isn't the same as blame. Blame says, you're a terrible parent, you're a monster. Responsibility says, you matter, your child matters, the way you behave has impact. You have power to change patterns, even if it's hard and even if it's slow. And I want to say this clearly. You can have emotionally unstable personality disorder and not be narcissistic. You can have EUPD or BPD and be self-aware, compassionate and actively working on yourself. You can have EUPD and be a good enough parent who repairs after ruptures. The danger comes when EUPD becomes the excuse for never apologising, never learning, never seeking support, never considering the child's perspective. That's when it tips into narcissistic territory. My feelings are the most important thing in this house. Everyone else must adapt. You know, that kind of thing. So how this can shape your child's mental health, including emotional unstable personality disorder. Children are sponges, not just words, but for patterns. If they grow up with explosive anger, unpredictable moods, verbal attacks, cold silences, neglect of basic needs, they learn love feels chaotic, my needs are too much, I must twist myself into shapes to keep you calm, I only exist in reaction to you. Over time, this can contribute to anxiety, depression, self-harm, disordered eating, attachment difficulties, and yes, possibly traits of UPD themselves. I'm not saying if you shout, your child will definitely get EUPD. Life is more complex than that. Genetics, wider support networks, school friendships, temperament all play a part, but we cannot deny that chronic instability and emotional neglect are risk factors for emotional difficulties in adulthood. When a child spends their early years learning that emotions are dangerous, conflict is catastrophic, they are always too much or not enough. Excuse me. Their nervous system learns to swing between extremes, cling, push away, idealise, devalue, silence, explosion. And then one day they're standing where you are now, trying to parent with managing the chaos inside. Intergenerational trauma doing laps. You have a chance right now, listening to this, to interrupt that cycle. The school can deal with them learning. I'm struggling enough. Let's move into education. There's a harsh sentence coming, and if it stings, stay with me. I can't be asked to read with my child. That's what school is for. It's actually a form of neglect. I'm not talking about parents who struggle with reading themselves, or parents with their own learning difficulties, or parents working 3 jobs doing their absolute best, shattered and still caring deeply. I'm talking about the attitude of, it's not my responsibility to engage with my child's learning at all. The school can deal with it. I'll just shove them through the door and hope for the best. Reading to and with your child isn't just about books and grades. It's about language building, vocabulary, understanding, curiosity, connection, being physically close, sharing imagination, laughing together, attention, showing I care about what you're learning and thinking, confidence, helping them feel capable before they tasted in the classroom. When a child doesn't get that at home, it can contribute to learning struggles. Not the neurodivergent kind, things like dyslexia, ADHD, autism processing differences. They are not caused by not reading enough, but the kind where a child arrives in school already feeling behind, confused, embarrassed, and decides, I'm stupid, school isn't for me. If home is chaotic, neglectful, and emotionally unsafe, homework probably doesn't get done. Sleep is all over the place. Breakfast is a can of sugary drink and crisps. Nobody checks the planner. Nobody reads the school letters. Then when the child struggles, the school gets blamed. They're not supporting my child. They're failing them. They're not doing their job. Sometimes schools do fail children, absolutely. But sometimes, honestly, we as parents aren't doing our part either. And I know if you have EUPD, depression, trauma, money stress, physical health issues, the idea of being some Pinterest perfect parent reading chapter books by candlelight might feel laughable. You don't have to be perfect. But I can't be asked is different from I'm struggling but I care. I will do one small thing tonight. So let's get to how to start changing, even if you have messed up a lot. If you've been listening and thinking, shit, that's me, I've done that, I am doing that, take a deep breath with me. In for 4, and then slowly out for 6. You are not condemned to stay this way. Let's talk about practical steps. Admit the truth, at least to yourself. In your own head, say, I have lashed out. I've said brutal things to my child. I've neglected them emotionally and physically. Sometimes I blame my EUPD instead of taking responsibility. This isn't to drown in shame. It's to stop lying to yourself. You cannot change what you won't acknowledge. Separate explanation from excuse. Just write this down if you need to, okay? So I'll give you a chance to get a pen and paper. You got it? Good. EUPD helps explain why I react so strongly. EUPD does not justify hurting people. You're allowed to say, my brain is wired for intense reactions. You are not allowed to say, that's just how I am, take it or leave it. Get support that is actually designed for BPD or EUPD. If it's available to you, look at therapy that understands EUPD, especially things like DBT or other skills-based therapies. support groups in person or online, books, podcasts, resources on emotional regulation and trauma. Realise that you need to do some work so you can be the best parent you can. This isn't self-care, as in bubble baths. It's learning how to not explode on your child, and it is sacred work. Create a pause between feeling and action. You will still feel huge emotions. The skill is to build a tiny gap between I'm overwhelmed and I'm shouting, hitting, throwing, insulting. Try things like walking out of the room and running your hands under cold water. Saying out loud, I need a minute, I'm too angry to talk kindly right now. Counting your breath in and out 10 times. Texting a trusted friend rather than unloading on your child. You're not aiming for perfection. You're aiming for slightly less damage than last time. Repair, repair, repair. If you have lashed out, your child does not just need, well, I said I'm sorry once. They need a genuine apology. I shouted and called you names. That was wrong. You did not deserve it. No blame, not but you. No, you made me. No, none of that. Space for them to speak. How did that feel for you? You can tell me. I might feel sad or guilty hearing it, but I won't punish you for telling the truth. Visible effort. Seeing you change your behaviour, not just your words. Children are incredibly forgiving when they see a parent truly trying. Do the tiny, everyday love things. You don't need money, degrees, or perfection for this bit. Start making some kind of half-decent food regularly, even if it's simple. Set a basic bedtime. Go into their room, sit on the edge of the bed and say, good night, I love you. Even if they grunt, even if they roll their eyes, keep saying it. When they come in from school, put your phone down, look at their face. Hey, you're home, how was it? Pick up a book, even a comic, and read with them for 10 minutes. These tiny acts are the opposite of neglect. They're you saying, I am choosing to show up, even when I'm tired, even when my brain is on fire. For the adult child of a parent like this, now I want to talk to you if you were or still are the child on the receiving end. If you grew up with parents who lashed out, parents who blamed EUPD, stress, money, alcohol, you're too sensitive, junk food for dinners in front of the TV, no routine, no one asking about your day, nobody reading with you, nobody caring about your homework, you're raising yourself while they imploded. Let's get something absolutely straight. It was not your job to regulate your parent. It was not your job to parent your parent. It's not your job to fix their trauma. If you now struggle with emotional swings, anger you don't understand, people pleasing, shutting down, difficulties in relationship, learning or concentration issues, you are not broken. You are responding exactly how an intelligent, sensitive nervous system responds to chronic instability and neglect. You did not deserve the words thrown at you. You did not deserve the nights with no goodnight kiss. You did not deserve to be dismissed when you come home from school desperate to be seen. You may need support, therapy, safe friendships, maybe medication, maybe self-help resources to untangle this. That does not mean you're weak. It means you're doing the brave work your parents should have done. You are allowed to set boundaries with a parent who still lashes out. Step back if being around them destroys your mental health. Say, I love you, but I will not let you speak to me like that. Become the cycle breaker who parents differently. So how do you become the cycle breaker? Cycle breaker sounds grand, like something on a t-shirt. In reality, it often looks like crying in the kitchen because you caught yourself about to scream the words your mum screamed at you, putting the plate down, walking away, taking a breath, coming back and speaking calmly, apologising to your child for things nobody ever apologised to you for, reading a bedtime story even though you were never read to, making a sandwich and some fruit instead of the easy junk food option every night, turning up to parents' evening when your parents never once came to yours. Breaking the cycle is exhausting. It's also quietly revolutionary. You may not be able to offer your child a perfectly stable picture book childhood. You might be doing this on benefits in a small flat with mental health issues, lonely as hell. But every time you choose connection over dismissal, accountability over excuses, a gentle word over a cruel one, a story over another hour of numb scrolling, you are altering the emotional DNA of your family line. Your child will still have their own struggles, their own therapy, their own heartbreak. But what they won't have is the certainty that they were unwanted, unseen, or unimportant. So, a love letter to the messy, ashamed part of you. I want to finish with something that might feel strange to hear. A bit of compassion for you, the parent who's realising you've done harm. And that is the key thing, you're realising. But shame will whisper, you're disgusting, you don't deserve children, they'll be better off without you. Shame wants you to give up, to sink, to say, what's the point of changing? I want to speak over that. You are not your worst tantrum. You are not your diagnosis. You are not the sum total of every time you said something vile in a moment of dysregulation. You are human, who didn't get what you needed, who never learned how to regulate, who's been carrying a lifetime of pain without a map. You're also right now a human who is listening to a podcast about not passing that pain on. That matters. That is a first step. And I'm proud of you for that. Learn into that part of you, the part that wants to do better, the part that hurts when you see fear in your child's eyes, the part that knows deep down, this isn't who I want to be. Let that part drive. Let that part call the GP. Look up therapy, apologise, set new routines, pick up a book, put down the phone. So lashing out might be part of your history. It does not have to be your legacy. You can have EUPD and still be a conscious, loving, accountable parent. You can have trauma and still choose not to traumatise your child. You can have messed up massively and still decide, from today, I do better. Not perfect, but better. If this episode stirred things up for you, please don't just sit alone in the fallout. Talk to someone you trust. If you're in crisis or feeling like you might hurt yourself or someone else, reach out to emergency service or a crisis line in your country. Book that appointment you've been putting off. Tell a friend, I'm struggling, I need support. You are not beyond help. Your child is not beyond healing. Change is not instant, not easy, not glamorous, but it is possible. One regulated breath, one kinder word, one bedtime story at a time. Thank you for listening today. Thank you for being brave enough to look at the hard stuff. Take a deep breath with me. And remember, you're here. You're still in the story, and that means there is still time to write a different ending. I'll speak to you in the next episode.